Hello, welcome to your training course on PRINCE2. My name is Simon Blizzard and I'm a trainer with the Knowledge Academy. I'm going to take you through various modules of what PRINCE2 is, but also how we combine these modules together. A lot of the training courses I've experienced in the past have all been about dictation, telling you what to do, and very few have actually really brought it to life. So hopefully this training course is going to be very different from what you've experienced in the past. I'm going to show you the good points and the bad points about how these individual elements that make up PRINCE2 can really bring your output to life. So let's take a look at the two exams which are available for you to take once you have completed the course. Firstly, you have the Foundation exam. This is a 1-hour exam comprising of 60 multiple choice questions. It's important to understand that this is a closed book exam. No additional material can be used when you are taking this exam. The pass mark is 55%. That's 33 marks or more to gain a pass. Now, if you are successful and pass the Foundation exam, you can then go on to do the Practitioner exam. This is slightly different. Firstly, it's 2.5 hours long. You've got 46 multiple choice questions worth a total of 68 marks. It is based on a scenario and it is open book, which means you can use the official material to help you and support you during this exam. Now, this book can actually be tabbed up to help quick navigation, to go to the right page quickly without having to flick through page by page to find what it is you're looking to do. As with the Foundation exam, it's a 55% pass mark. That means you've got to score 38 correct answers or more. It's important to point out both exams are online, and if you speak to your account executive, they will be able to give you more details on how you can book your exams. So what is PRINCE2? Well, PRINCE2 stands for Projects in a Controlled Environment. It's a tool at the end of the day. It's a methodology that will help you to plan and implement your project following a fairly detailed approach, a structure, but it's that structure that will enable you to control your project. It's fantastic. It's now one of the most widely used project management methods in the world. It's very generic, it can be tailored, and it doesn't matter the scale of your organization, you can still use PRINCE2. It doesn't matter what your organization represents, you can still use PRINCE2. It doesn't matter where you're located. PRINCE2 knows no boundaries. You can use it no matter which country you're based in. It doesn't matter about the culture. PRINCE2 can be adopted and adapted to any culture. And it doesn't make any difference the industry sector that you represent. You can still apply the PRINCE2 methodology. So it's a proven best practice, refined over many, many years to help ensure that the project outputs are as perfect as we can make them. It can be tailored, as we've already mentioned, to meet the specific needs of the organisation and that particular project. Remember, every project is, by sheer virtue, unique. No two projects are the same. You'll always find similarities, but deep down they will be different. It uses a widely recognised vocabulary, which again can be tailored to your own organisational needs. How many times have you been in a project environment where people are speaking a language which seems very foreign to you, using abbreviations and terms you don't understand? Well, PRINCE2 can overcome that and help you to achieve a common language that all parties in your project can understand. It focuses on the project viability. And the beauty of using PRINCE2, it's driven by the business case, which helps us to determine if there is still a justification to continue. After all, have you ever been involved in a project where after a period of maybe a few weeks, you start to realise, is this project really going to deliver what we thought it would? With the business case, that will help me to determine if there is still a justification to continue. And the other amazing aspect of PRINCE2, it promotes learning through experience. How many times have we made mistakes, only to find other people are repeating those mistakes? The way PRINCE2 overcomes this, it captures these lessons. We can then record those lessons and share them with our colleagues. Best practice, worst practice, so that we don't repeat the same mistakes again, but we promote the learning experiences which deliver value. Okay, so PRINCE2 is divided into what we call integrated elements. And each of these integrated elements will be explained in future modules. But what they are, the first integrated elements are the principles. And there are 7 principles which we will go through. To support those principles, there are 7 themes. These themes will each have their own module, and as I've already mentioned, I'll explain these later on. To ensure that we have continuity and flow right the way through our PRINCE2 process, there are 7 processes. And these processes, we will discuss how we can fit them together and get them to support each other to ensure that the outputs that we deliver are the best they can possibly be. And the 4th and final integrated element is the project environment itself. We can tailor that environment, as I've already mentioned, to meet any internal requirements relating to the project and all that of the business. Okay, so PRINCE2 seems like a very versatile and flexible methodology. But let me just make this point quite clear. PRINCE2 does not provide everything. Firstly, it doesn't provide the specialist aspects that some people are looking for in their projects. For example, leadership skills. It suggests you've got to have leadership skills, but doesn't explain how you're going to use them. It does suggest that there are a couple of techniques that you could implement, but it does shy away from providing lots of different techniques, which in some cases can be a little bit stifling to how you manage your project. Techniques are important, but sometimes they can take away some of the autonomy that you may need in order to drive the success that you're after. The 2 techniques it does mention are product-based planning, which we will look at when we look at planning theme a little bit later on, and the quality review technique. This is one of the aspects that we will discuss in detail when we start looking at the quality theme. So what do I need in my PRINCE2 project to make it a PRINCE2 project? Crucially, you need to apply all of the 7 principles. Applying just 6 out of the 7 you might feel is adequate, but it's not a true PRINCE2 project. It's meeting the minimum requirements as set out in the PRINCE2 themes. After all these 7 themes will need to be applied, but how extensively is going to be down to you. It's making sure that we maintain a focus through the justification, making sure that once we focus through what this justification represents, we can meet those objectives. And it's also about following the recommended techniques or an equivalent to ensure success. So what is a PRINCE2 project definition? I tell you what, before I give you the answer, just pause me for one moment and write down on your notepad what you think a PRINCE2 project definition is. Then we'll compare notes in a minute or so. Okay, so this is a true definition of a PRINCE2 project. It is a temporary organisation created for the purpose of delivering one or more business products according to an agreed business case. And there are some crucial elements within that statement. It is temporary. It's going to deliver outputs which we call business products. And it is driven by the business case, the justification document. PRINCE2 is more than that. Projects in general come with key characteristics. And these project characteristics are present in all our projects that we undertake. Let me just list them for you. And again, it's probably a good idea to make a note of these. Firstly, when you undertake a project, why do you want to do it? And that brings me to my first point. You're there to bring about change. Change is generally what we're after through the benefits that we're going to deliver once the project concludes. Projects are also temporary. Think it through. What happens when the project finishes? The team are often just disbanded back to their original roles, back to business as usual. Projects are also cross-functional. Now, the point around the cross-functionality is that when you deliver your project output, it's not just potentially your part of the business that may be affected by it, but the whole organization. So we need to make sure that the project is represented by all of those who could be affected by the project outputs. Projects, as I'm sure you're already aware, with point number 4, are inherently unique. No two projects, as previously mentioned, are the same. And so, as such, although we can take similarities from previous or prior projects, we must always treat each project as though it is unique. And finally, projects often deliver what we call heightened levels of uncertainty. You'll probably just refer to that as risk. Remember, because of the nature of the project, because it's there to bring about change, it's unique, it's temporary, it's cross-functional. Therefore, there's an inevitability that there's going to be more risk. And that needs to be managed very, very carefully. So what actually then is project management? Well, project management is all about planning, delegating, monitoring, and controlling all aspects of the project. And obviously looking after your team, ensuring that they're sufficiently motivated so that as a team, we can achieve the project objectives. To help manage the project, we actually have 6 tolerances in PRINCE2. Now, tolerances are what we call permissible deviations. So forget the term, how about this as an example? I could say, I'd like you to produce me a report, and a time tolerance could be, I need it between Wednesday and Thursday next week. That gives people flexibility and an understanding of my expectation. So what exactly are then these tolerances? Well, it enables me to use this term management by exception. Think it through. It's very efficient and effective use of your time. After all, I'm sure you've experienced in the past people looking over your shoulder, telling you how to do your job. Whereas maybe if they just said, this is how much money you've got, this is the time you've got, and this is the quality that I'm looking for, I'll leave you alone to carry on, you'd probably perform a lot better. And I'm sure you'd agree with that. Anyway, what are these 6 tolerances? Well, let me give you the first 2 main ones. The first one is cost, and the second one is time. These are the 2 main tolerances that we have to work towards within our project. The other tolerances are quality, looking at the permissible deviation between the levels of quality that we're looking for. Number 4 is scope, and scope is all about what's included in your project, but also, and importantly, what do we exclude? We look at benefits, and again, people think, I've got a benefits tolerance? Certainly. Imagine you've got several projects that you're working on. What happens if the benefit levels start to drop on your current selected project? And when it gets to a certain level, at that point, you may decide we should perhaps look towards another project. And finally, we're looking at risk. In some cases, when we start seeing risk rates rise, that's when we need to make a decision. Should we carry on with the current project? After all, if the risk exposure becomes too high, it may be impossible to carry on. As a project manager, I've got several activities that I have to embrace to ensure that we meet those tolerances. My aim is to plan, to delegate, to monitor, and to control all aspects of what is taking place within my project. ensuring that the right information is available at the right time for the right people, so that the right decisions can be made in order to understand if the project should continue. So the environment that I'm often used to working within is what we call a customer and a supplier environment. So let's look at the customer. Now remember, the customer specifies the desired results, and usually these are the people who will pay for the project. It's the customer that will also define their quality expectations. On the flip side, we have the supplier. And the supplier is there to provide all the necessary resources and skills that I will need to achieve my project objective. It could be the person, group or groups responsible for the supply of the specialist products that we're going to need to produce during our PRINCE2 project. And finally, there's one last group. Who is the person who authorized the project to begin with? And these are known as the corporate, the program management, or the customer. And these people are often seen as the project commissioners. They often provide the project mandate and various levels of governance that they expect the project to follow. But they are also there to ensure that the project benefits are realized and to make sure that the project itself is staying within the rules and the boundaries that they specified. It's also really important to understand how your project fits back into the organization. And if you currently think about your organization, there's probably several projects or even programs that are currently taking place. And when you start looking at the entire organizational structure, this is often referred to as the organizational portfolio. Now, the portfolio is made up of all the various programs, all the various projects that you're undertaking. It still has to be managed, but when we are looking at projects, we have to understand, again, the impact it could have within either the program or the portfolio. Let me give you a definition of what a program is. It's a temporary, flexible organizational structure created to coordinate, direct, and oversee the implementation of a set of related projects and activities in order to deliver outcomes and some benefits realized to the organizational strategic objectives. Now, your projects formulate a part of those programs. So, just to summarize, a program is a subset of all related projects. Each of the projects deliver outputs, and these outputs come together within the program to hopefully make sure that we realize those benefits. The portfolio has to be managed, often by somebody like a portfolio manager. Finally, it's very important to understand that your PRINCE2 project could be part of a commercial undertaking or a commercial environment. And as such, you may find that your PRINCE2 project is part of this commercial understanding. And for that reason, there may be elements that you've got to embrace. For example, different delivery approaches or looking at different levels of governance, especially if you're working with multiple suppliers or multiple customers. So again, PRINCE2 is extremely flexible and you can use it in these type of environments with no problem whatsoever. But you must understand all the various implications in doing so and make sure it's reflected in your project.